Hello, I spent a lot of time drawing pictures of Daventry and looking at the history of the town. Now, there used to be a professional park service, and today that work is contracted out at quite considerable expense. It seems to go up all the time. I'm concerned that there are a huge number of complaints about the way the parks and our open spaces are managed today. And I think that there's a better way of bringing dignity back to Daventry. I'm talking to Councillor Sean Connors about this and about ideas about reintroducing a more professional park service which we can be proud of. Sean, why do you think that we need to change the way that we're doing business with the park scheme? You've got to tell me, why don't we have a park service?
Well, that is a good question, Tim. I mean, to be honest, the park service disappeared at the end of the 90s, is when it disappeared. It had been around actually for a very, very long period of time, going back to Victorian times. And a park service really was essentially people who would work in local area, local councils, local sports facilities. They were all area-led. Workers were much happier in lovely spaces than they ever were when it looked untidy and unkept, and therefore their work also became untidy and unkept. There was a reality of the times.
The same idea of dignity, aren't we?
Dignity. And the
Dignity
truth is,
and
our
beauty.
kids also are the same. You know, if you try to install values in children, you have to set the standards yourself. And that comes through the park service often as well, because children playing in a park, if they see that it's a mess, of course, treat it as such. It's costing far more now
Than
because
it
you
ever
have
did in
to
the past.
privately contract
Right.
to get probably a tenth of the service. Because really what they do, if you go around and look, of course, is that they just cut the grass. And really, when I say trim the hedges, they literally butcher
just
them.
cut the top,
Just cut the top
of
off
the whole
with no
thing,
thought
just
to
outside
it.
here too.
No thought to it at all.
Um,
And what you're left with is, and you get away with that for a long period of time. You actually get away with that for a while because people can drive by and think it's okay. But it's only okay. As soon as you walk in, and I hope that's what we'll do at some point, have a look at some areas, you'll see for yourself when you go in close just how bad it really has become.
So, one thing that we could absolutely do to put the dignity back into Daventry is restore some sort of park service.
We're not only saying that the costing of getting a scheme up with professionals doing this would be almost the same as we're paying at the moment. But we're also saying that people we're paying at the moment are not doing their job. And what is this brick doing here?
That's come from the path, I think you'll find, over where we were.
Well, that's dangerous.
Kids pick them up, don't they? This is what happens. If it's never tidied, then it gets picked up and thrown
You have no
around.
respect for it. Of course, you throw things around.
You know, that's what happens because kids have got nothing to do.
Take contracts as they stand currently without getting into the sort of detail of it. I think it's going to cost a bit of money. There's going to be an upfront cost, which is going to be more than a contract.
Yeah.
But of course, over the long run, the cost is completely mitigated because once you've got teams of people in place that have been trained, understand the job, they will save you and create money as well.
And we would also then be able to implement a number of apprenticeship schemes,
Yeah,
which is part of the UKIP agenda anyway.
absolutely. And also expand it out. So when you start, for example, it makes sense to start logically in the centre of Daventry, and then you expand out into the villages with your teams to give them the scope of your skills. So you'd be able to take on schools, you'd be able to do different carpet badges, you'd be able to do different bedding schemes, and you'd be able to do all those things because of the skills that you've already
And so
created.
within a few years' time, we would actually be able to compete for Britain in blue. We're also looking after sports, we're also looking after health and safety. We're making sure that people can actually walk down the pavement without falling over, that children can go to these play centres without tripping over there's a rubber tarmac which has started to lift or which has been very badly replaced.
We can see repair work, but we can equally see whether repair work's failed because if it's of a different material.
If you look great when you drive in, you're all ready to sign it. You're halfway
Because
to
the centre of
signing.
town needs a revival anyway, so this would be one way of giving it.
Massively, yeah.
That life.
I mean, we seem to be possessed with the small detail about picking litter up. We're a possessed town about picking litter up, but we don't.
Well, that's good.
You know, which is lovely, but
we pick the litter up and we don't even see what's wrong around us. So there'll be litter in amongst the beds.
So really, the things we need to do is we need to produce more. We need to give dignity to the town, dignity to Daventry. We need to give more space.
Yeah.
We want to create more space. We want
Yep.
to create an environment where people actually want to walk and be.
Yep.
And we also need to create a space where people would actually like to explore and go beyond
Like to feel good.
the places where they're absolutely directed to go.
And often horticulture does this because it starts with a simple vision, and that often comes through the horticulturalist. So when I walk into areas, I'm already thinking, cool, what would I do with this area? How would I improve it? But what could be done is, of course, there's a lovely area about 100 metres long, maybe 20 metres wide, beautiful area, a few trees growing, nice shrubs, but it's not been looked after. And I can imagine a walkthrough, 100-metre walkthrough, nature walk for the kids of that school and other kids, and it would be fantastic because anybody that's into that could stop every few metres and say, oh wow, we've had a fox come through here and there's a badgers living here. And when this tree reaches about 45-50 feet high, that on a windy night will snap clean off and go straight through that fence and probably into that, purely because it was never maintained in the first place.
It's just soul destroying, isn't it, really? How badly it's been managed, the lack of care. We saw that screw in the ground. It's just dangerous. And how do these contractors get away with it?
I think what happens is, and it is hard, but one of the advantages of a park service, you see, is you used to have people, what I'd call park people on the ground, and the local neighbours and local residents would get used to the people that worked in their area, and they would see them on a daily basis. And the advantage of that is massive because there's a presence in those park services till they're closed. Often it would generate revenue, as I've said, because there are a number of things that you could do. You could have a treetop walk and it's maintained and you pay a charge to go in and use it, or you might have tennis courts.
Well,
which you
we've
charge
already
for.
we've already got the huge park, the reservoir.
We have, but
and
generating nothing.
Generating nothing, and when you walk into it, the actual entrance is quite exciting, and then you've got this miserable bit.
Yeah.
Next to the little cafe. It's really not inviting.
No.
And that's the place where you're supposed to feed the ducks and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
But you could do so much more.
There's a lot.
It needs some planting. It needs it needs guidance.
But you see, the point of all of that is when you've got people that are actually in place and you have a team of people that everybody gets used to, it massively cuts down on vandalism. And the other advantage is it's first-hand reporting. You see, if anything happens...
Well, the vandals become the people who actually want to do the creation.
Exactly, yeah. But you have that fantastic thing is when something happens, it's reported immediately.
Yep.
It's not a damaged area that's not reported maybe for several months.
Yes.
Before it's too late, somebody gets hurt, it's too late. And that was always the advantage and strength. And a lot of the times, these teams could fix and solve a lot of the issues because they were trained.
The Victorians thought that the park was the soul of the community. We've got the UKIP platform, and we often think, UKIP stands for getting out of Europe, but it also stands for looking at local issues, localised politics, and doing things for the local area which will benefit the local area. I think we need to energise our forces and get to grips with, I was going to say the nuts and bolts of the thing, but actually it's the seeds and the flowers, and we need to make ourselves proud. We need to put dignity back. We've lost our way.